Normally I get right into the woodworking part of it, and then we get everything ready so that we can put on our long mill. This time I'm going to go right into Carveco and do it right away. And then we'll carve the project and finish it off and show you the result. So let's get started. Hey folks, before we get started with our project today, I would like to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Sienci Labs, the makers of the Longmill benchtop CNC, just like the one we have here in our shop. Please visit their website and check out this great machine. Now let's get back to our project.
Let's go up to Carveco and open the file or open the program. Let's go over here to new model. Okay, we're going to go leave the size the way it is. I'm going to leave inches, and I'm going to start from the bottom left. Okay, now here's our workspace. I know I've done this in the past. I've made charcuterie boards. I've made beer flights. Never made a beer flight on my long mill. This is the first time. Yes, it may be my first beer flight, but I have made this style of board before. If you go back to a couple of weeks ago, I did a charcuterie board that will show you exactly how to make these curves, and you can learn step by step from that video, so check it out. Okay, it's time to make some holes for the beer glasses. So I've already selected the circle tool. I'm going to create a circle here, and then I'm going to come over here to the tool settings area, and I'm going to make the diameter of this circle 2.2 inches. We're going to create this circle. I'm going to have to position this circle, and there's a couple ways we can do that. We can kind of move it around. There is an easier way once you get a handle on your coordinates and everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here to the transform tool, and I'm going to open up, click transform while I've selected my circle, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set the origin position with this area here. Now you notice you can change your origin point on your piece itself, on the circle. I can go all the way around this whole thing and set it however I want. So I want the edge of the circle to be about 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches from 10 inches is going to be 8.5 inches. So we'll make this 8.5 inches. Now I want the top of the circle to be at 20. So in order for that to happen, we got to come over here, and I'm going to do that at 20 and come over here, or excuse me, the top of the circle on the origin position, and then I'm going to make this 20 and apply, and there we go. So right now, because of the origin being changed to there, that's the position. But if I move this over here, you can see that it needs to change to 8.5, and we'll apply, and that's it. Now that I have the first hole positioned, so I'm going to select the circle, and I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to do block and rotate copy, and we're going to select that. And what that does is it opens up this dialog box here. Now what we want to do is we want to block copy. No sense of rotating because it's a circle, wouldn't make any difference. Distances are offsets as this. Distances are gaps are between your copies. So my gap is going to be 2 inches. And then the direction you want your copy to go is here. I want it, I'm going to select this and have it come down. I want 4 rows all in sequence. So we should be able to just hit apply and have 4 circles perfectly positioned on this board. And there we go. We've done everything we needed to do. The holes are there. We've created the board. We've created the holes, and I think they're perfectly positioned. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to save this particular Carveco maker file. Beer flight with snack. Not really sure what else to call it. And there we go. That's done. Okay, I think we're all ready to move on to the toolpath creating. So I think a lot about how I am going to create toolpaths in order to save steps. Now, Carveco is really cool about being able to give you several different ways of doing the same thing, and it's a matter of preference, really. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create the toolpaths in the order I want them to carve. Now, if I mess this up somehow when I get to the end where I'm saving the toolpaths, I can always change it, and we'll show you that when we get there. But let's get right into saving the thumb hole. So we're gonna select that first, and I'm gonna save that or create that toolpath. And what we're gonna do is make an area clearance. So we'll select the area clearance tool that brings up the dialog box. Our start depth is 0, obviously, because we do everything off the top of our work, or at least this particular project is. Our finish depth is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and we're going to come down here and we're going to add a tool. Now the tool I like for this is a 1/4 inch end mill, and I am going to use a down cut. So the reason for that is I want the top not to tear out. I think an upcut would have a tendency to tear it out, but it does remove the chips better. But I want this thing to be as clean as it can be, so I don't have to do as much sanding at the end, because I know I don't really like to sand, and I don't think you all really want to watch me sand. So at any rate, we're going to leave all these settings the way they are, and this project's not going to take very long to carve. I'm just going to let it do its thing, and we're going to call this thumb hole while we're right here. And let's see, raster is what I did on the charcuterie board. I think I'm going to do offset on this one. Had no effect on the charcuterie board. I don't think it'll have any effect on this one either, so I'm going to switch it to offset. And let's see, double check all our settings. All that's good. Now we want to create our material thickness of 3/4 of an inch. It's already there. Bottom offset's 3/4, 0 at the top. Click OK and hit calculate. Now you can see down here, please pay attention to this, because your board is this size, I'm assuming. That's the size of the board I'm using. Now you do not, I repeat, and it's telling you this because I've made this mistake, do not put a clamp in here, because or anywhere near this line, this blue line, because that's the way your router will go to that hole. So do not put a clamp in there. You will tear it off or cut through it or possibly ruin your bit. So anyway, thumb hole's done. Okay, let's save our toolpaths. So we come over here and we select toolpaths. Come down here to save toolpaths, and you can see here are all our toolpaths. Now, if you want to save them all together, this is how you do it. If you want to save one, you can save just one, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. You just select here and you hit save. Now it puts the other two over here in a group so that you can individually save the thumbhole toolpath, and you can run it separately. You know, that way for whatever reason you might want to do that. Whether you want to take the piece out, or a piece has to be moved, or you want to put a mask over it, you know, the Oracle mask for the next phase of carving. Maybe you need to paint those letters, remask, and then, or stain, and then remask, and then run another toolpath. That would be one reason. I'm sure there's others. Now, I'm going to save them all at once, and they are going to be in this order. You can switch them around just using these arrows there. So we're going to go saving this with snacks. Well, snack. Okay. Click save, and we are done.
Hey, all you Longmill fans, we are ready to go to the mill. And I've got my wood all prepped. I did change the size a bit from Carveco. I reduced it to 8 1/4. This piece was 24 and about an 8, so it really doesn't matter, but I just reduced it. I figured, why cut up, you know, cut that all up when I could save that hunk. There's 2 inches there that I could use for a cutting board or something. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how I attach it to my mill. Okay, I know you can't see me, but I know you can hear me. So this is not really all that complicated. As you can see, I've got 2 T-tracks. I kind of spaced them out. I'm about 4 to 5 inches from my limit out here. So what I've done is I've created a backer board that you can see there. Now what that does for me is that gives me flexibility. What we're going to do is I'm just going to wedge this in here. Now on this side I have a positive stop, and I made sure that it was wide enough to be able to get in the cut path or the limits of the machine, so that I could put a straight edge here and have it be parallel to my x-axis. That's important. These T-tracks are parallel to our y-axis, so that takes all the difficulty out of this and makes it easier for me to load projects every time and unload them. So I'm going to be using these wedges that I made, and I'm going to put one on either side. I'm going to kind of get them eyed up. Now I'm going to bring that down to the piece so that the wedges hit it. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten these screws. What that does is that tightens this backer board, and I'm going to take my plastic hammer and I'm going to tap these wedges in, making sure that this board is flat. Do one side a little at a time. You don't want to, I've moved it a little, you don't want to do that. Just tap it back to where you want it. But make sure that you put a good amount of pressure so that the board will stay put. And that is it for installing in our mill. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, we got the board in the mill and we're going to carve our beer flight. So let's get started with that. Okay, now what we are going to do is we've already connected our mill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect our project. So let's go open up our project. And sorry about all this, I should have had it set up prior. I have a lot going on this thing. Let's see here. We're gonna do beer flight on a Longmill, and we're gonna do screen recorder, tool pass, and with snack. So here we go. There it is. There's our tool path that we've created, and it is going to be interesting to watch this because I'm the first time I've ever done this with oak. So anyway, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to set up our touch probe, and in order to do that I need to get the touch probe out, put it on there, and we need to jog the machine down to where we need to jog it to. So my step size is 1. I'm in the inches here, so I'm just gonna, it moves it an inch, I'm just gonna keep clicking it and get it down where we need to get it. That's about it there. We'll come across. It's kind of hard to see it at that point, so I'm going to turn this down manually to get it close now that I'm there. And we're going to reduce our step size to 1/10 of an inch. And let's see. We are going to go towards me a bit, make sure we're in the center, and I am also going to make sure that my magnet is attached so that we can get good connection, and we'll show you how that all works here. All I do is just put it on the nut. We got it in place. My probe is up in the corner. And we're going to come over here to make sure that we're on XYZ, because that's what I want to do. I want it to go off the top, and I want to go off left and right and front to back. So we're going to measure and let it do its thing. Okay, there we go. So that is about it for that. We're gonna remove it, and the next thing we do here is double check everything, make sure that we have the board is flat. Just do a double check, everything's tight, and we can come up here and hit play. But first things first, we need to get the dust collection on, and we need to turn that all on. So let's put the dust collection up, put that down to the top of the piece, and I'm going to grab my hose and stick that on there. And that is all that is. We just need to turn the dust collector on. I'm sure you can hear that. And turn our router on.
And at this point, we are going to touch play and start the carve. Now this carve took me approximately 25 minutes. And I found that I could slow these speeds down a little bit. 100 inches a minute is kind of too much for this oak. And you know, I'm only taking a little less than 1/8 of an inch off every time. I think it was 0.1 that I was taking off, so I could have slowed it down. I'll put the speeds and feeds in the description below so you can see them. But other than that, the carve went well until the very end, and you'll see that coming up. Really wasn't thinking here, so, but live and learn.
When carving is done, a couple things happened, and I was a little bummed about. My retract height wasn't big enough. I did 0.05, I believe, for a retract height, and it put a nice little 30-second groove in the top of my board. Now, I could take that out real easy. I'm just going to run it through my sander, my drum sander, and get that out. Second thing is, I guess I'm comfortable enough with my mill, with the Longmill, to be able to have done enough carves, so I didn't do any tabs. I positioned the board or the carve right on the edge of the board, so I didn't have anything on the right hand side, as you saw, and I had very little on the left hand side, so that loosened my board. Wasn't thinking there. Keep that in mind. Always, always, always make sure you have enough stock if you're doing a pressure hold like that. If you're putting clamps on it somewhere, you need the extra wood to do that. But in my case, I really thought I could just get to that last pass and hold it. But it chattered a bit, and it didn't ruin the piece, but it gave me some sanding, which I was trying to avoid. So keep that in mind, and you will have a good carve. I promise. Practice makes perfect. So there we are. Got a little whale here, a little chopper. We're gonna get it finished up, and I'll show you the finished product here in a sec. And one other thing. I just wanted to show you my enclosure. I talked about it before, and I wanted to enclose all my electronics. But I built this enclosure, or fence basically, around my mill, and that was to keep the debris from getting on my screw drive, getting on my wheels, that kind of thing. And for the most part, unless you're using MDF, it kept it pretty clean. I'm going to get on close to it so you can see. The project made a mess because of the window opening and that sort of thing. But if you look at the rail, it really stayed pretty clean. So I think I had a success on this. You know, I think the build was pretty successful, and it saves me a lot down the road keeping my mill clean. And I really, really try to keep it clean, and that way it'll last me longer. I just routed, chamfered the edges. I didn't want a lot. I just wanted just a little bit, and it came out good. I'm very happy with it. We're going to do some final sanding on it with my 5-inch random orbit, and we're going to start with 120, and we'll end up with 220, and then we'll decide on a finish. I'm going to my old tried and true Danish oil. Again, this is a product that's going to see water. I choose this product, this tried and true Danish oil, because Danish oil penetrates the wood and seals it while giving you a food safe finish. I like that. It's kind of, to me, better than mineral oil because it actually seals the pores of the wood so that bacteria can't penetrate. And if you treat it enough, it'll last a long time before you have to redo it. Mineral oil is fine, but you have to keep up with it. You have to keep using it, otherwise your board will dry out. I believe that the research that I've done on this and the success I've had with previous projects, I think I'm going to just stick with it. Yeah, it has a little bit of an odor, but that goes away after a while, and the finish holds up. So that's what we're going to do. Well, let's get going. Okay, first coat's on. We'll let it dry, and we'll flip it over and do the other side. And we'll probably do this about 4 times. Okay, here it is. One beer flight with the Longmill from Sienci Labs. It's the first one I've done, and it will not be my last. I really like these projects where you can complete the outer edge with the Longmill and save yourself a whole lot of sanding. Even though I had to do some sanding, it would have been way more if I had to do this with a bandsaw. But you can build it with a bandsaw. I wouldn't if you have a Longmill. So folks, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you ring the bell so that you can get notified when I produce another video. Until next time, be safe out there. Check this out. I need to go get some beer.